Hi everybody, thanks for staying with us. We promised you some exciting guests. We've got a couple of real exciting ones in from bowls. TJ Saunders, of course, a bit of a regular. He's in, but he's brought the lovely Renee McFarlane in. Renee, thanks for coming in.
No worries, pleasure.
Now, let's get on to a little bit of controversy from the start. Now, we know you're a state player, we know you're an Australian player, and we'll get to all of that, but you've gone through the phase where women and men are now combined, playing against each other. Was that a difficult transition to go through?
Well, not for me personally. I think because I started at a young age, I was always just, when I played for Balaclava, it was just part of the nature in the club. I always just played with the men, so I personally didn't find it a challenge, but I know some older women do find it more of a challenge, yeah.
You know what, TJ, I come from old school, so I never thought that I'd see the day when men and women would play against each other in the same sport, and I've always been against it, but I don't think I've ever considered bowls with respect. I've always been thinking about football and soccer and tennis and these sort of sports, but I wouldn't have thought that there would be is there any animosity between men and women at that level?
At the top level, no, there's not. I think there's an enormous amount of professionalism at that top level. And I think where you've got the people that have struggled through a transition from, I guess, in an older bracket, but they're coming on board fairly quick, which is good because, it's all about the future of the game, where we want to take it. And strategically, you want a game that gives you the best possible level that you can compete at, and I think this is definitely the way to go.
TJ, you're out there, and often Renee, a young lady, so doesn't hear the bickering that goes on behind. Have you noticed it? Have you heard blokes having a swipe at the ladies, mate?
I've had people that have refused to come down to the city and play in tournaments because it's actually open gender, refused to compete. Wow. And these are people that have played in these tournaments for many years that are now gone open gender that refuse to compete.
Well, on what basis, though?
Scared of getting beaten.
Exactly.
Is it ego? Or?
Well, look, I can tell you now, and we were talking off camera, Renee and myself, I said, I joke and say I don't like playing against the ladies because I always get whopped.
No.
But I would have thought it's a game of touch and feel, and it's not a game of strength and brute force and anything that I see this as one of the rare sports where you could quite easily have male and female competing.
Yeah, definitely.
I would have thought.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's good for us girls to definitely play with the guys because they're obviously typically better than us, so it definitely improves the standard. I know my standards improve.
What makes them better? What is it? I mean, in your case, it's probably you're only 19, so it's experience. But overall, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I don't really know what makes them better, but they're just more consistent, more accurate.
Okay.
Their whole idea of how to play the shots are a lot better than us females. We sometimes tend to take the conservative aspect to playing the shot, where the guys are a bit more, okay, let's just hit it, and that often actually has a better outcome than playing a conservative shot.
Is it a disadvantage for you though? You play with a lighter ball, the two. The men play with the four, so obviously you trying to shift the ball out of the way is not quite as easy as theirs. So is it actually a disadvantage for you or not?
I don't really think about it, to be completely honest. I just know that I have to probably maybe put a little bit more speed on my bowl just to move it a bit more than what a guy might, but I don't really think it's actually too much of a disadvantage.
I guess as time, I think in any transition, and this is obviously a significant transition within the sport, TJ, I think with everyone there's always that pushback in change, but as time goes by, I'm sure they'll reflect back and go, you know what, it was actually probably for the betterment of the sport.
Yeah, look, if you look at some of our smaller clubs, I think that it's more of a need to change, particularly when you've got a falling membership on both sides, combined that they can continue to compete. Larger clubs probably not as prevalent, but particularly across the sport, I think it was a necessity to keep the game moving in its intended direction.
And I think too, like, let's use a husband and wife combination. If the husbands are playing Saturdays and the wives are playing Sundays, just to use an example, they're both not in it together. It would be a great, whether it's tennis, which obviously you play mixed, to be able to play a sport together. I think that's a great thing. I really do. Well done. That's good.
Yeah.
I was nervous. I was wondering where you're heading with that.
Halfway through the question, I wasn't sure either.
Renee, let's talk about where it started for you. So off air we're chatting. You started at 9 years old playing in Balaclava with your dad.
Yeah.
What drew you to bowls?
We used to, when my dad first took up bowls, we paid him out because we thought it was an old person's sport. And then as time went on, my mum decided to put my brother and I in the Balaclava Junior after school program just because she was a teacher and it just worked out as a bit of a babysitting thing. So my brother and I went along to that and we both showed potential. We both went down to trial for the state, but my brother took the cricket option in the end and he's quite good at it now. I decided to stick with the bowls. I just really enjoyed it. It was something a bit different. It was something to do on a Saturday. Yeah, I still played my netball and basketball back home because I think that's always really important to have that balanced life with different sports. But yeah, it just intrigued me, so I kept going.
At school, I played basketball, and of course, then footy was as it is now, still the traditional sport. So if you're playing basketball, you're a bit of a girl, or you're a bit of a shield. Did you cop any of that for bowls? Like, it's an old person sport. Any ribbing? Any ribbing for it?
I did a little bit, I suppose, but I think because I had that balance of netball and basketball as well, and I didn't just play the typical bowls as an old person sport, I didn't cop it as much. And I think because I hit Australian level at the age of 15, which was, pretty good for a 15-year-old playing in the under 18. So I think because I potentially played at that higher level, I didn't cop it as much. And because I also got a bit of prize money on the side as well, as a 15, 16-year-old, I think it worked pretty good.
All of a sudden you've got me and Phil's attention. Did you say prize money?
Yeah. So I think my friends were like, oh, that's pretty cool. So then I went down that path. So.
All right, you just played in the under-25 Trans-Tasman for Australia. How was that experience?
Yeah, it was amazing. The week prior, I played in the under-25 World Cup, and that was exceptional. Like, never played in anything before. Got all the countries coming in as one, and yeah, it was really good. And then the Trans-Tasman was exceptional, but sadly we did lose to the Kiwis, which was disappointing. But
it is, yeah. TJ, speaking about those opportunities as a young person playing international competition, were those opportunities there as a 15, a teenager for you, or are they something that are again starting to evolve with the sport?
Mate, at my age now, it feels like we went in wooden ships anywhere. Look, I think in any sport, if you look back and we go, what a great opportunity, and Renee's really forged ahead with her career, and it's great. But I think if we look back, there's been many opportunities through football, cricket, tennis for young players.
Yes.
Lawn bowls is no exception. And I think with lawn bowls, it's one of the great sports where they do recognise talent. I know being associated with other sports where your name will carry you through, particularly at district or grade level. But lawn bowls has been fairly consistent in far of recognising someone's talent rather than their age. And now we're obviously into open gender, we're starting to ignore that as well.
All right, Renee's at West Lakes, obviously their pre-season training's going pretty well, mate. Ascot Park for you, has pre-season training started?
Last Friday night it did, absolutely.
Well, we talk about, and it's changing over time again, I mean, better athletes, better everything. Pre-season training now for bowls, has it expanded? Is it a longer period to get ready?
Look, if you want to expand out where a lot of our players are at the moment, some have just returned from different tournaments, but a lot are going up to the Australian Open, and the preset for the Australian Open is a lot of events around Tweed Heads on the Gold Coast at the moment. So they'll travel up there for 4 weeks. Some of the bowlers are actually up there for two months, so those that are retired or can fund it, where we struggle because we've got to work and kids and family commitments. But the Australian Open's a 2-week tournament. It's held for the first time up on the Gold Coast, and they're actually doing the qualifiers and the tournament all at the same time. So if you come back from that into August, there's probably a couple of hit-outs through August, hit and giggled, so to speak, but then in September, that's where the serious stuff starts. So for some of the guys, it started now.
Nearly 12 months of the year. All right, time for us to take a break. Hope you can stay with us out of the break. Still plenty to come, Renee and TJ. Thanks for your time. Stay with us, folks. Plenty coming.